Welcome to Haunt Weekly.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jonathan.
I'm Crystal.
And this is Haunt Weekly, a weekly podcast for the haunted attraction haunted entertainment community. Whether you're an actor, owner, or plain aficionado, we aim to be a podcast for you. And we come to you this week on our continued journey to try to find a new release date that works consistently.
Yeah.
We're still trying to figure that out. We haven't picked a day yet. We're trying multiple iterations. That gives us time to write the show notes, do the research, and get these episodes out that fit with what are some pretty random schedules right now.
Yeah, that's the main issue, is that it's very random.
Yeah, you used to have a job that, even though you hated it for all the right reasons, at the very least, when you came home at 5 or 6 p.m., that was it for the day.
Usually.
Usually. Pretty much always. Nowadays, it's more up in the air.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, your schedule doesn't make any goddamn sense to anyone. And mine never made any goddamn sense. So now we're trying to organize two chaotic schedules.
Well, yeah, so mine has hard deadlines whenever they occur.
Yes.
But when they occur is random.
Yeah, and that's how you know she's working with the military. Because that is the most military thing. They're hard deadlines, but they're random.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
They'll happen when they happen, but they're firm. That is the military in a conversation. Everything I've ever had to do with them, that was my experience too. But on that note, please definitely check out all the places we exist. We're at hauntweekly.com or on Haunt Weekly on Facebook, youtube.com/hauntweekly, and all your favorite podcasting platforms. So, yes. Well, this week's episode is going to be an interesting one. Because a revolution happened underneath our noses. And I didn't realize it until super recently. And then I've personally been on a huge fucking rabbit hole on this for like a week and a half now.
Yeah.
This has been an episode that has been a long time in the making, as far as like the research and everything else. So I'm looking forward to getting into it. But we're talking about the concept, or I should say the modern concept of buy now, pay later. And we'll be getting into some distinctions in a minute. First things first, I think we already did our housekeeping conversation. Still trying to find a consistent date. We're still going to get weekly podcast up, but the date might be erratic until we can figure something out. Work we did for the haunt?
None.
None. It's actually been already a heat wave in the city, and that just sucks.
Well, and we've let some people borrow tools, and so we can't cut wood without saws.
Yeah, we need... Yeah, all of our saws are gone. I just realized that.
Yeah.
Like all of them.
Yeah, so I can't really...
We may have a single reciprocating saw hanging out somewhere.
Yeah, so...
I just realized that. We gave away all of it. Well, didn't give them away. We lent away all of our saws.
We lent away about a month ago.
So yeah, if we want to chop wood, I guess we got to go the karate route.
Yeah.
Hi-ya!
Exactly.
I'm sorry, it's not even split, Jonathan. I'm very impressed.
That's okay, because it's a haunt. It doesn't have to be even.
Oh, man, but yes.
If you could karate chop a piece of wood...
if I could karate chop a piece of wood, it would be... We have seen someone shoulder block through a 2x4, though.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it can be done. I don't know how I would feel the next morning if I did it.
Well, and with our shoulders right now, it's not a good idea.
It's a really, really bad idea. So, yeah. So, please return the saws whenever you're done. Thank you. Because that actually is kind of the next step, is cutting and removing things.
Yeah, because then I can at least do the flyer box, because we're building a new flyer box.
Yep. That is on our agenda. And it actually will be one of the easier jobs, too, in terms of, like, we don't have to do it all outside.
Right, yeah.
We can actually do parts of that in air conditioning.
Right. Well, and the other thing we can do in air conditioning is bring in the paintings that I do and start on this year's paintings.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. All right, but every week we try to ask a question a week, and last week we asked a very simple question.
Yeah.
Whereas we're recording this, and as this is going live, MHC is still going on.
It's wrapping up fast.
Let's wrap it. It's going to be wrapping up soon, but it's still going on. So we asked, are you going to MHC this year? And I was genuinely surprised. Because I have heard a lot about MHC this year.
Yeah.
It seemed like a lot of people were very interested. But then again, it seemed like, as you noted before we got on, there's some controversy.
A little bit, yeah. A few people aren't happy about a few of the changes, but,
Yeah, in particular, one of allowing kids. But I don't know, man. Where else are the new haunters going to come from?
Yeah. No, I'm all for making it a family-friendly, do a teaching thing for kids.
Yeah, and I get it. Like, Trans World is technically a business. It's a showcase more than it is just a regular convention. It's meant for selling, buying, and selling.
Are you talking about Transworld or MHC now?
Transworld.
Okay.
MHC, though, I think can be the more education, the more family-focused one's what I'm saying.
Yeah, it does seem to be more...
Because it used to be the split there was Transworld HauntCon for that.
Yeah.
And now HauntCon ain't there no more.
Mm-hmm.
So now it could be Transworld MHC.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Sure.
Because we need that educational conference. We need an on-ramp for new haunters.
Mm-hmm.
Because, if you don't create a path for newbies to come in, especially young newbies, then you don't get many old veterans.
Mm-hmm.
That's just how it is. But several people did say they were going, including Kevin.
Bigsaki.
Yeah, Bigsaki. Yes. I'm having to
Sorry,
lean in.
Kevin.
So I'm having to lean in. It's my fault. Ross Ratiff said they're going Brian Warner. Katie Lane. Of course, I've seen tons of Katie's photos. Roberta McClellan. Sarah Moon. And, Wicked Willow Productions said they're trying to.
Yeah.
But most people said no. Like, it was...
Yeah, we were surprised.
It was like 90% no. Yeah, those were the ones that stood out. So I hope that those of you who went and enjoyed it, I've been enjoying seeing the photos on Facebook and other social media.
Mm-hmm. And if you listened to the last episode and you did stop by the Haunted Dolls, or if you didn't hear that part and stopped by anyway, let us know what they did. Because I have not seen anything about it.
Yeah, I will be deadly curious. So,
other than the set piece looked amazing that's up for sale today.
Yeah. All right. Well, on that note, this week's question of the week is, what ways does your haunt accept payment or donations?
Mm-hmm.
We are home haunt, so we do donations.
Yes.
We are, right now, cash is primary because we have the nice donation box, supplemented by Venmo and Cash App.
Yeah, with QR codes.
With QR codes. Honestly, Cash App was kind of hilarious because almost no one used it last year.
Right.
But for my business, I use Square to handle like all invoicing, almost all my payments and all that. So tax time comes around, and I of course get one of those IRS, I forgot what number they are, 1095, something like that, forms for my Square account, which I totally expected. Tens and tens of thousands of dollars went through that. Got to pay taxes on it. I get it. And honestly, I was grateful. It meant I didn't have to go through and add all this shit up on my own.
Exactly.
It was actually a big help. But then, like a week later, I got the same form from Cash App. And it was like $3. And it's like, why am I getting... Then I realized Cash App and Square are the same company. They're just two payment providers with the same company. And so the result of that is they had to send me a form for both payment platforms, even though nobody used Cash App.
Yeah.
Everyone used Venmo. Pretty much. We got a lot of Venmo donations. But Cash App, I think we got like one or two. And like I said, I think it totaled $3.50. So nothing.
Yeah.
But still, it's really hilarious. I should frame that. my IRS form for the $3.50. I got $3.50 for it. So... Yeah, but that's what we primarily use. I don't know if we're adjusting that this year. I think we might want to look at what people are actually using, because obviously Cash App did not work.
Yeah, I do want to change the signs at the very least to say, this haunt is free. Only donate if you can, what you can.
Yeah.
Because I think there's some confusion.
Yeah, I don't think there was much confusion, but I do agree that we should really emphasize that point.
Yeah.
I 100% agree that we should emphasize that point.
Mm-hmm.
So anyways, but that brings us to this week's topic. The revolution that happened underneath our noses. And I already know because I've looked at the statistics. The audience for this podcast, you listening to this right now, you poor person, you're going to fall into one of two camps. And it's almost exactly 50-50. 50% of you are going to go, what's the big fucking deal? Nobody does these things. I've never done it. What's the point of these? And the other half of you are going to go, well, of course you should be talking about this. Everybody's doing this right now. This is the new big thing for payment.
Yeah, exactly. Because if you've tried to buy anything for any amount anywhere, you've seen this. You may not realize you've seen it, but you've seen it.
Especially for online purchases.
Yeah.
It's most common for online, though it's becoming more common in person too, as I found out. And that is buy now, pay later. And the idea behind these, and I'm sure you've seen them, you've seen the logos like Affirm, Klarna, Cash App Pay, going back to Cash App again. That's the one that Square operates. PayPal, PayPal later, I think it is, or some bullshit like that. I don't know. I can't keep track of all these motherfuckers. But yeah, we've seen the logos. I never thought they were a big deal. I just thought they were this new thing they were doing, and like, yeah, okay, maybe the occasional person does it, whatever.
Yeah. Never
really gave it a second thought. But these have fucking exploded under our feet. According to Statista, I have no idea, I've never actually tried to say the name, buy now, pay later represents 5% of all e-commerce payments.
Yeah, that seems like a significant amount.
That is fucking mad. No, it doesn't sound like a lot.
There is a percentage that they can find that is not zero.
and when you consider how many transactions happen online,
exactly,
this represents millions and millions and millions of transactions. And according to Fortune Business Insights, it's a $37 billion industry. And the crazy thing is, they are projecting it to grow. Fortune, I think a reliable business publication, expects it to grow to $167 billion by 2032. So that's 7 years from today.
Yeah.
They're expecting it to, what is that, quintuple? So it's just, wow. So since haunts are increasingly doing digital transactions online, we need to talk about this. We need to talk about what Buy Now, Pay Later, or BNPL, is. We'll probably be switching back and forth between the name and the abbreviation subconsciously because we ain't got scripts. Should haunts be taking it, and what potential issues should haunts be aware of? So first, we got to get a working definition. Now, BNPL has been around for a long time, and you and I have talked about this before in that we have a Best Buy account.
Yes.
Which technically is a form of BNPL. We buy a MacBook. They give us 12 months to pay it off without interest.
Exactly.
That's been around in the form of store credit cards and like that for a long, long time.
Yeah, for hunters, you probably also see this at either Home Depot or Lowe's.
Yeah.
Because we have that also.
Yeah, if you do a purchase over $250 at Lowe's, you can get 6 months or a year or whatever it is to pay off, depending upon the exact terms.
At both,
yeah. Yeah, at both. Yeah, and we have a Home Depot account. We just try not to use it
until September.
September, October.
Yeah.
There's 12-foot skeletons in it.
No.
No, it's usually lumber is what puts us in.
Yeah, there's a lot of lumber. And if we need any new tools.
Yeah, I think the last really big thing we did that with at Home Depot was actually the Makita tool set we got. Because we put like $500 worth of tools. And mind you, they served us well, and we did pay it off without problem.
Oh, yeah.
But, yeah. So
but being able to split up the payments does help.
Yes. But that's not what we're talking about here today. What we're talking about today is those little things you see, especially in online things, where they say, hey, pay this off in 4 easy payments of X. Usually if you spend more than like $35 or $50 online, there's an offer to split it up across, quote-unquote, 4 easy payments. So we're going to use a fictional transaction to guide us through this. So say a customer is visiting your haunt's homepage, and wants to buy either 4 $25 tickets or 5 $20 tickets, whatever floats your boat. And there's no fees or taxes, so it comes out to exactly $100. They could just pay $100.
Yeah.
And that'd be it. It'd be done. You get $100, they get the tickets, life goes on. Or they could BNPL, where they can buy now, pay later. So we're going to break this apart and take a look at it from the customer's perspective and then from the merchant slash BNPL provider's perspective. Because those two are intertwined very, very heavily. So what happens if you're the customer? Well, you enter, if you don't have an account with them already, you enter a whole bunch of information. And then you immediately pay, right then, $25. And then you pay another $25 automatically every 2 weeks after that. And so that's a total of 4 payments over 6 weeks. Everyone's like, it's 8 weeks. No, it's 6. Because you got 3 additional payments. You pay the down payment is 1 quarter. So yes, and if it all goes well, you will pay, as the customer, exactly $100, no interest, no fees.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, it is free money to you at that point, and that you get to hang on to that money and use that money's value for those weeks.
Yeah.
Which money in the hand does have more value than, paying money tomorrow has value over having to pay it today. It really does.
Gladly pay you Tuesday for 2 cheeseburgers
hamburger
today.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it turns out that doesn't actually work at restaurants, Wimpy.
No.
Yeah, go into your local burger and I'll gladly pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today. No, fuck you, Wimpy. Get the fuck out of my restaurant.
Yeah.
Fucking asshole.
Mm-hmm.
Mooch. But yeah. But here's the thing. Things can and do go wrong even on these smaller transactions.
Mm-hmm.
First, if for some reason you're not able to make one of these payments, then suddenly you get hit with an extremely high interest rate. It goes from no interest, no fees, to eye-watering interest rates and fees. Higher than credit cards.
And credit cards are pretty damn high.
Yeah, significantly higher than credit cards. Supposedly upwards of 35% in some cases.
Mm-hmm.
So you can get some really high fees out of this.
Yeah, that is crazy.
So, yeah. And the second thing is, if you fail to make a payment, it leaves a negative mark on your credit score. Now, that's fair. I mean, I'm not a big fan of credit scores, to be clear. I think it's kind of a weird bullshit system anyway.
Well, it is because you have to take out credit in order to build credit, and there are some people that we know that prefer to just live on a cash economy.
Yeah.
And then they try to buy a house or something, and they have no credit built up because they pay their bills with cash.
Yeah, the problem is that your credit score is not based upon how good you are with money.
No.
It's based upon how profitable they think you are.
Yeah,
as
exactly.
A customer. It's not, I mean, you can be really, really fucking good with money and have all the money in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And still have a shit credit score just because you didn't take out enough credit, you took out the wrong kinds of credit.
Yeah.
Things like that. So it's a bullshit system. I'm not a fan of it. But here's the problem with it. A BNPL loan can have a negative impact, but it can never have a positive impact.
Yeah.
Because they do not report on-time payments to the credit reporting agencies.
That seems unfair.
They only report the delinquencies.
Yeah.
And that is one-sided as a motherfucker.
Mm-hmm.
And that, to me, is reason enough to avoid doing this. Because even though, it's not that big of a deal for me to pay off 4 $25 things.
Yeah.
I still don't like the idea that there's a risk if something goes wrong.
Yeah, like what if your credit card gets, or
stolen.
your card gets stolen and you forget to update the number with the payment processor?
What happens if something goes wrong with your account and it gets drained abruptly?
Yeah.
What I mean? What if?
Yeah, you get scammed or something.
Yeah, there's a million different things that can come back and bite you here, no matter how good you are with this. But anyways, and of course, if you miss payments, you also can face debt collections and other things too.
Right.
Still, for many, it is a useful tool to buy something now with money that will be available later or over time. So, I mean, I can definitely see some merit to this.
Mm-hmm.
But let's look at it from the merchant / BNPL company perspective. If you're the merchant, or in this case, the haunt.
Yeah, or a haunted attraction conference.
Or, yeah, exactly. Basically, for you, Buy Now, Pay Later is just another payment processor.
Mm-hmm.
It's the exact same functionally as PayPal, Square, and Stripe, which is funny. Because all three of those actually offer BNPL solutions or ways to connect to providers. Stripe doesn't have one directly, but partners with a firm to share APIs so you can hook up with them super easy.
Yeah.
But yeah. And so the BNPL companies, well, how do they make money? Like we just said, there's no fees and no interest rate if it goes well.
Mm-hmm.
They got to make money somehow. Well, there's two ways there's two definite. I think there's probably actually three ways they make money.
Mm-hmm.
The first is they charge a much higher merchant fee rate. People bitch about credit card and debit card processing fees.
Yeah.
It's right now, I know for my business, and my business is one of the worst case scenarios because it's all card not present transactions. I pay 2.9% in the transaction fee, plus I think 50 cents per transaction.
Mm-hmm.
Well, whatever you're paying for your regular credit card and debit card processing, usually you double it with a BNPL.
Yeah, so 3 to 8%.
Yeah, 3 to 8% is typical, and $1 per transaction is typical. And here's the rub that a lot of haunts are going to really hate, and that is you cannot pass those fees on.
Yeah.
Like, I know credit card companies have changed their contracts so that you can pass on those fees, and I don't like it. I think it's skeezy as fuck. We've had that conversation 1,000 times before here.
Yeah, if you use a card, you're going to pay 3% more on the price. And it's like, why?
Yeah, because cash has costs too.
Yeah.
Just because they're not costs that automatically appear in a ledger doesn't mean it doesn't have cost.
Right, because, cash makes you more vulnerable to just robberies.
Yeah. Cash transactions
cash on hand.
take longer.
Yeah.
Cash transactions are lower value because you're limited by the cash the person brought with them.
Yep.
There's a lot of cost to cash. So yeah, but you are not allowed to pass those fees on. So you either have to raise your prices or just eat those costs.
Yeah, and knowing haunts, they're going to raise the prices.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, and you have to raise the prices on everyone, not just for the Buy Now, Pay Later crowd.
Yeah.
The second way they earn money is interest from late paying customers.
We just talked about that. Yep.
And the third, and this is I'm pretty sure they do it because I don't know why and how they wouldn't do it, but I have not been able to confirm it, is through data broking. Because they get all this personal information about everyone who goes through, and they know all about their shopping habits, buying. Yeah, they're probably doing some level of data broking.
Yeah.
Everybody does data broking. I mean, that's why services like Delete Me and Incogni even fucking exist. There's so much of this shit going on. They've created a cottage industry just to fight back a little bit.
Yeah.
Which is fucking nuts, but whatever. So, yeah. For the merchant, it's just like any other transaction. Higher fees, but you get your money immediately. It's just now, instead of the money coming directly from the customer, it's coming from the BNPL provider. It's coming from the intermediary. So, yeah. Why should haunts consider this? I don't know. They probably should. End of episode. No.
Well, you pretty much said that earlier when you said you couldn't pass on fees.
Yeah.
But...
yeah. But no, the first reason is the target audience lines up so fucking perfectly.
Yeah, because BNPL is most popular among young users. And who goes to haunt? Young people, usually.
Yeah. Haunt target audience is typically between 13 and 29. So that 18 to 29 crowd that can legally do BNPL is a great target. Currently, and this is something I found interesting, among credit card users, less than 1/3 of the users, closer to like 25%, almost a quarter, down to a quarter, are under 35.
Yeah.
In the 18 to 35 range. For BNPL, that number is well over half. So, yeah, the demographics of Buy Now, Pay Later skew young. They skew almost perfectly in line with the haunted attraction audience and the demographics that we have. This is something that young people like to do. And one of the reasons we didn't realize this was becoming such a big deal was because we're both over 40.
Yeah.
We're not the audience for this.
No, we generally just pay for what we want, and if we can't, then we either put it on credit or decide we don't need it.
Yeah, and if we can't pay for it, a BNPL with 6 weeks probably isn't going to make a huge difference.
Yeah, exactly, because we're playing different ball games.
Like breaking it up over a year, like with MacBooks, that's one thing. Because that's, a little about $100 a month instead of $1,000 out of pocket. That's a different game. But no, it's not going to be significantly easier to break up that purchase over 6 weeks.
Yeah, but if you're a teenager who is not in the workforce yet, but is getting an allowance, you could use your allowance to pay this over weeks.
Yeah.
I could see how that would work.
It's like reverse saving. Instead of committing your previous 4 weeks allowance or whatever, you're committing the next.
Right.
So yeah, the second thing is BNPL causes larger purchases. Remember how I just mentioned that credit card and debit card purchases are larger than cash? Because with cash purchases, you're always limited to the physical currency the person has. And if they didn't bring $200 or whatever, they can't buy all the stuff they probably want. Well, here, you're not limited to the money they have, full stop, anywhere. They can literally spend money they don't have. So, yeah, BNPL purchases are typically at least 10% larger, which on a $100 purchase, like we were talking about, it brings up to $110.
Yeah.
That's extra. That's pretty significant money. Second, it increases the likelihood of purchase significantly.
Yeah.
Because they are 17 to 16%, 17 to 26% more likely to purchase if BNPL is offered. People who've already done it and are already set up. So if they already have an account with a firm and they've done a few of these loans with them, and they see it again on a purchase, their likelihood to buy just goes up by roughly a quarter. Which is talking as someone who comes from a marketing and advertising background, that is an insane boost in likelihood to buy. That is unbelievable to me. I mean, it's so much. I actually double checked the numbers on that to make sure it was at least agreed upon by two sources, and it is.
Yeah. And I mean, if I still had the headdress making business, I would be considering this.
Oh yeah, you have no choice.
Yeah, because people could pay now or start paying now for a headdress to use at Mardi Gras.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's actually a really good example of a business that would do well with it. Your audience skewed younger again, but it's a major impulse purchase, which brings us to the next point: is that it encourages impulse buys.
Yeah,
and so that person there, who looks like a $200 headdress, will say, might go, "Oh, I can't afford that right now."
Right.
But they might be able to afford $50 right now.
Exactly. And then, or the $25 down payment, and then they're like, "Oh, it's just $25 over this amount of time."
Yeah.
Isn't this? How is this different from those late night commercials of 4 MHC installments?
Well, two ways that I can understand. One is with those, typically you didn't get the product until you finished paying.
Okay.
And that's also
like a traditional layaway.
Yeah, and that's also how it's different from layaway. Now, if I'm wrong about those late night commercials, let me know. I never actually ordered anything from them.
I don't think I did either. I'd have to talk to my mom.
Yeah, I was about to say, we do have an expert in the family, so to speak.
Yeah.
Well, but we're not going down that road.
And I'm actually pretty sure that for some of those companies, you have to sign up for a credit account with them and then make the payments to the credit account with them that would be kind of like this.
Yeah.
But anyway.
But yeah. The advantage of BNPL for the customer is that you are acquiring now. It's like more like a credit card than like a layaway.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a credit card with a lot of downsides as the consumer. But yeah, you get those impulsive purchases. And with haunted attractions being very FOMO driven,
mm-hmm.
people not wanting to miss out on whatever the haunt's doing this year.
Yeah.
You're basically, because that's the thing about FOMO driven purchases, is they are very, very impulsive.
Yeah, so if you have this super special night with this character's only going to be available this night, somebody would want to really go to that. They could say, oh, you have a BNPL, I'm going to start paying this off now so that I can make sure I get my ticket to see this character.
Yeah. Basically, or even it could be as simple as, this is the night all my friends are going.
Yeah.
I don't want to miss this group activity.
Exactly.
So, BNPL this because I don't have the money to do this comfortably today.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And here's the thing I was kind of surprised to learn, and this was the one that really blew my mind, was that tickets, especially event tickets, are actually the second most popular item to purchase BNPL.
I believe it, because tickets are expensive to go to things, and it's something that people see as non-essential. Like, you've got to have some entertainment in your life.
Yeah.
Of some sort. But
you can't just sit there at home twiddling your thumbs all day.
No.
But
yeah, tickets are expensive.
Yeah, but they are on the list. And what's weird to me is currently the most popular item for BNPL,
mm-hmm.
food delivery. DoorDash, Uber Eats, that stuff.
That's interesting.
Yeah. That is, right now, the most popular thing to BNPL. Tickets, I believe, are a second behind that.
Okay, because I understand the tickets way more, because...
Oh, I understand tickets way more, too.
There's a lot of emphasis right now on doing in-person, real-life experiences together, which would be tickets.
Yeah. And as you just noted, tickets have gotten ridiculously expensive. Yeah. Not so much, and I can't believe I'm about to say this, but this is an area where haunts are actually better than a lot of other industries we might be competing against.
Mm-hmm.
When you compare the rise in haunt ticket prices, especially when you factor in Ticketmaster fees and all that bullshit, haunt ticket prices have gone up way less than on large concerts. Now, local shows are a different matter.
Mm-hmm.
Movie theaters are a different matter. But yes, big concerts are just too fucking expensive.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes me not want to go. Like, we bought tickets to Psycho Stick.
Yeah.
And that's not even a huge concert.
No.
That's a medium-sized concert at most. And even that was like, ugh.
Yeah.
And then most of it wasn't the ticket price.
No, it wasn't. Like, a lot of... Like, I've missed out on seeing some bands because once you factored in all of the fees from Ticketmaster and whatever, it just was too much. It was basically double the price of a single ticket.
Yeah, we'd buy 2 tickets, pay for 3.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm not playing that game. I'm sorry.
It hurts. It hurts the wrong way.
Yeah.
And I remember, Steel Panther was one we skipped initially. We got to go see them. They came back. And they came back on a day in which Ticketmaster offered a 0 fee day.
Yeah.
So we bought it then. But yeah, so we did get to see Steel Panther. We have been to the concert and did have a great time.
I love that's the one you go to.
Well, I just remember because we got the 0 fee day.
Yeah. No, but they did not offer a 0 fee day for Evanescence, and that's the one I really wanted to see.
Yeah, I get that. That hurts.
I was going to go by myself, and then it was the same price as 2 tickets, and it was stupid.
Yeah. And just to sort of drive home how popular tickets are for this particular structure, though, this year's Coachella was called basically the BNPL Coachella. Because so many people who went financed their tickets that way. And Coachella tickets were silly expensive.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, once again, I wouldn't have been able to necessarily afford 2 tickets, right offhand. 2 or 3 tickets right offhand.
Right.
They were very fucking expensive, so yeah, I don't doubt that. But yeah. Okay, so reasons for haunts to avoid BNPL. The transaction cost.
Yeah.
That's really where we could begin and end this part of the conversation. But we're not. We're gonna go a little bit further. But yeah, it's double the normal transaction cost and cannot be passed on to the customer. If you are already bitching and moaning about credit card transaction fees, which, like I said, I don't think you should be, but if you are, this is really gonna sting.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is not for anyone that has any complaints about current credit card transaction costs. And I will admit, I do think credit card transaction costs are too high. And there is a legal case right now going forward accusing them of being an oligopoly. Hopefully with an effort to bring some greater regulation, maybe bring down prices. That's what you should be hoping for rather than punishing your customers.
Yeah.
But regardless, the issue is you cannot pass these on to your customers, and they are way higher. About roughly, like I said, about double. And yeah, if you already feel like the transaction costs are eating too much into your profits, the same for you, bub.
Yeah, and how narrow is your profit margin that's cutting in? But anyway,
well,
that's
no,
another.
But like a haunt ticket, like
credit card processing should not be a deal breaker.
No. I told Ellie this. I don't know if you were there or not, but I'll never forget the verbal abuse and dressing down I took for coming up with a rate sheet that had computer sources. This is back when I was working for the AutoCAD licensing company. When one of the tiers had only a 9% profit margin after all fees were taken out.
Yeah.
It was like, no, we don't do anything less than 10% here. Like, it's 1%. Jesus fucking Christ. 15 fucking minutes of just dressing down and abuse.
Yeah.
I took a lot of shit at that job when I look back on it.
Yeah.
That was not a healthy work environment.
No, it was not.
God. Yeah, I can abuse myself, thank you very much. I don't need a boss to make me feel like shit. I've got clinical depression on my side. But yeah, basically, if you're worried about how transaction costs are cutting into your profits, skip. Just move on. You can stop the episode here. It's been fun. Have a great time. Second reason is it's an unsavory business. Let's just be honest, it's kind of skeezy and more than a little bit exploitative.
Yeah, because it targets young people who may not have the best
financial
money,
savvy?
Yeah. Money health habits.
Yeah. Basically, according to LendingTree, 41% of BNPL users have paid late. And nearly 1 in 4, so 25%, have said they had 3 or more loans active at the same time.
Well, and I think that's part of it, is that it's not considered a loan in people's minds.
No.
Because loan is never associated with BNPL. It's either BNPL or buy now, pay later.
Yeah.
It's not framed as
a
loan.
L and BNPL does not stand for loan.
No, it doesn't.
You're absolutely right, but it is absolutely a loan.
Yeah.
It's a loan of 75% of the purchase price.
Yeah.
And yes, if it all goes swimmingly, it can be a 0 interest loan.
Mm-hmm.
But if it doesn't go swimmingly...
Okay, so how is this compared to payday loans?
You know, it's in my head...
Because there you get the money, and then if you don't pay on time, you have to pay insane percentages.
Yeah, and it's very similar.
Yeah, because then you have the money to spend on whatever you're going to spend it on.
Yeah.
But it's a very predatory.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. It's almost identical, except the difference is with a payday loan, I've got to go to one of those storefronts in sketchy parts of town that I don't want to go to in order to get one. It's usually next to the Dollar Tree.
So could this be compared to like gambling in person versus online gambling now from like way back?
Maybe. Yeah, I think that might actually be a good argument.
Is that a good parallel?
Yeah, I think you might actually have a good parallel there because you're entering the same kind of risky financial situation.
Right.
Admittedly,
but it's on your phone, so it's fine. It's always
and the main difference I think is that BNPL, know enough about payday loans,
Mm-hmm.
but my understanding is that they are typically for larger amounts.
No.
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 You
You can get them for $100 or $200.
Okay.
Yeah, it's larger to the people who typically get them taken out, but it's not necessarily larger for, you know.
Well, what interests me here then is I was just thinking about, well, why would I ever consider taking a payday loan?
Yeah.
And the first thought was remembering back to when we were younger and we were having vehicle issues.
Yeah, we discussed it once.
Yeah, I think it was because the truck broke.
The truck broke. We had to get the car fixed so that we could get to work to get the payments to pay the rent, but the rent was due at the same time.
Yeah.
And this was back when we were not financially stable.
Nowhere near as well, not well off, but
I don't like the term financially stable because I will never feel it.
no, and I never will either. Even though I just won't either. Even though I didn't have the upbringing you did in that area,
Yeah.
there was enough financial uncertainty,
Mm-hmm.
Especially during one particularly rough patch growing up,
Yeah.
that I've lost all faith in that idea of stability.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
it only takes one really good kick to the balls to make you feel that forever.
Yeah. Exactly.
So yeah,
we did discuss taking out a payday loan in that situation, and we decided against it. We decided to take out a credit card that with the company that was going to fix the vehicle.
Yeah.
Instead.
Yeah, the old Firestone card, if I remember correctly.
Exactly.
It ain't there no more. That company shut down.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, but
And we basically did a BNPL on the car repair.
Exactly.
We put down a small amount down payment. I think it was like 10% at the time, though.
Mm-hmm.
And then paid off the rest of it over 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. But anyways, and the final reason to avoid BNPL.
Sorry.
No. This is the kind of sidetrack people come to this podcast for. They've told us. It's your fault, you bastards. You vile people on the other end of this Don King looking microphone I'm talking into. Anyway, but the final reason is that the business model fucking sucks.
Yeah.
This is how I got interested in it and how I sort of initially tripped into this rabbit hole like a couple of weeks ago. Klarna, the biggest name in this space,
Mm-hmm.
biggest standalone name, I should say, because I guess I could argue that PayPal and Square are bigger, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's only a small part of what they do. The biggest standalone is Klarna, and they are a public company, and they lost $99 million in the first quarter of this year. January, February, March.
Mm-hmm.
3 fucking months. They lost $99 million a month. For those playing at home, that's $33 million every month, or over $1 million a fucking day.
Mm-hmm.
How did they lose it? Oh, and it's double their losses from last year. But how did they lose all that money? Because default rates are really fucking high. On most consumer debt, the default rate, it hovers between 1 and 2%. It's like 1.8, 1.9%.
Mm-hmm.
Toward closer to 2, but between those two numbers. With BNPL, the default rate is 7% plus.
Yeah.
More than almost quadruple. Now, I grant, if you're the haunt, that ain't your problem.
Mm-hmm.
You got your money. Fuck off, right? But the truth is this. BNPL companies do not KYC. Know your customer is the idea. So they are much, much higher risk of default. People will take out these loans. They'll buy, an expensive item,
Mm-hmm.
pay the down payment, and then close the bank account.
Yeah.
People will, be relying upon money that doesn't come, and that bank account never sees another dime until the loan has gone way into arrears,
Mm-hmm.
And they have to keep writing down huge amounts of debt that, according to them, they have no plausible way to collect on.
Yeah. So they didn't think it all the way through.
No. So it's really, really a shitty business model. Admittedly, not for the haunt, but also, do you really want to be tethered to a company that's going to have a huge implosion in a few years, probably?
So, before we move on to the next section, does that mean that the BNPL company would pay the haunt as soon as the loan is taken out?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, no, the haunt gets their money immediately.
Okay. Which is why this issue that you're talking about is not the haunt's problem.
Nope.
It's the processing company that
Yeah.
that approved the loan.
Yeah, the only way it impacts the haunt is you are associated in a small way with a company that might have a big fucking implosion.
Yeah.
And given that a lot of these companies present themselves and promote themselves as fintech,
Mm-hmm.
you know, they're tech companies, the explosions are going to be pretty epic when they happen.
Yeah.
You know, it's going to be a pretty epic. I mean, look at what happened to WeWork. You know, for your example. That was not fintech, that was real estate tech?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Something like that. I don't know what the fuck you call it. But yeah, that collapse was muy bueno to watch. Because I was way the fuck outside the company. I get to enjoy it full. Sorry to anyone who had anything invested in them.
Yeah.
Sucks. I feel for you. But as someone who was standing way the fuck over there, it was beautiful. Got to admit. So, should haunts offer BNPL services if they can? And one thing to think about, if you take PayPal or Square, you have the ability to offer it already.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to flip a switch in your dashboard.
Yeah. That makes it really easy.
Should you do it? From a purely practical standpoint, abso-fucking-lutely yes.
Yeah.
I know, that sounds so unlike us.
Yeah.
But abso-fucking-lutely you should.
Well, and the other thing is if you ever want to flip that switch to off, you've already raised your prices because you're going to cover those interest rates, but then you wouldn't be paying those anymore. So.
Yeah. Well, and the thing about it is, the other thing that we didn't discuss is with BNPL, there is a minimum purchase. It's usually $35 to $50.
Mm-hmm.
And so that means you're only going to be paying those higher rates on larger purchases.
Yeah.
It's not going to be someone coming along and buying a $20 ticket and you getting hit with that rate.
Yeah.
It's going to be someone buys tickets for them and all their friends.
Mm-hmm.
Or they buy tickets and online order some shit from the merch shop.
Right.
You know, stuff like that. It's not going to be, you know, those small transactions. Yeah, I don't see a reason why haunts shouldn't, looking at it from a purely practical standpoint. Yes, it is an unsavory business, but it's tied to the processors, not to you.
Yeah.
You can always say, oh, that's a Square thing, that's a PayPal thing. You know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we enabled it, but that's because they're our credit card processor. It's tied to them, not necessarily to the businesses that use it. And besides, those logos are now so fucking ubiquitous.
You don't know where they're coming from.
I purchased a lockpick set not that long ago.
Mm-hmm.
I was on Covert Instruments. I purchased a lockpick set, and there was BNPL. They tried to get me to BNPL my lockpick purchase.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's every fucking where. And so how are they going to think less of you for getting involved with the unsavory industry when everyone else is? Yeah, that doesn't necessarily make it right. But like I said, I'm looking at this from a pragmatic standpoint. It just makes sense. And the bigger issue for me is, like most of the issues I have with the ethics of BNPL, I can say the exact same shit about credit cards.
Yeah.
And you take credit cards, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have some way to, don't you? Yeah. The only difference is when you're taking credit cards and you're also taking debit cards and other things. So you don't necessarily know if this was a predatory loan, if this is their debit card they're buying
right.
with. You don't know. With BNPL, you would know. But once again, everything I can say about BNPL, I can say about credit cards. Because what was one of your first memories from college?
Signing up for a credit card.
And where was the booth to do it?
Inside the student union.
Oh, shit, yours was inside. Holy crap. Yeah. Mine was across the street from it.
No, it was inside the student union at fucking the introductory type event.
I thought my guys were fucking dicks. Holy shit.
Nope.
You see?
Yep.
Ethics.
18 years old, signing up for my first credit card with the advice of take out as much as they will give you.
Yeah.
Which was like, I don't know, $2,000 or $3,000 limit for a very first time with no job.
Yeah, no income other than student loans and whatever they
Yeah.
might give you.
Exactly.
Jesus Christ. Inside. Like I said, I remember mine because you remember the University of South Carolina, they had the student union and across the street.
Yeah.
And then they had this big, huge multi-tent complex set up across the street. I thought that was skeezy.
No.
Anyways, but from a purely ethical standpoint, like I said, everything I can say about BNPL, I can say about credit cards.
Mm-hmm.
They're both consumer credit. Consumer credit is inherently exploitative. It's encouraging you to spend money on things that you don't have the money for.
Right.
And
and the other thing to remember is every time I've seen this, there is a choice. You can pay now and just pay.
Yeah.
Or you can opt to do the BNPL.
Yeah.
So it is still a choice of which you want to do for the consumer side.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, if you're not offering this, I think you're probably missing out on a lot of sales. The only reason I can think seriously for a haunt not to is the higher processing rate. And
if you are an ethical haunt, but as we said, it's all predatory.
All consumer credit ultimately is predatory.
Yeah.
And we all have to, I mean, if you are going to do digital transactions, you have to take credit cards.
Yeah.
So you're already part of the system no matter what. You're forced into it. You might as well use the system to as much of your advantage as you can.
Yeah.
Anyways, on that note, everyone, thank you very much for listening to us debase ourselves and shed all of our ethical mores.
Pretty much.
This has been Haunt Weekly, episode 489. Buy now, pay later for haunts. Please do check out all the other places we exist, including hauntweekly.com, Haunt Weekly on Facebook, and youtube.com/hauntweekly. Follow us, like us, subscribe to us, do all the things. Until next time, I'm Jonathan.
I'm Crystal.
And we will see you all next week.
Now I'm going to go watch bird videos.